Ferrari just built the fastest accelerating car on the grid. It gains 200 meters on Red Bull out of a corner. It looks stable. It looks dominant. It looks ready to fight for a championship. And then it dies. On the third day of testing, with Lewis Hamilton in the cockpit, in the middle of a race simulation. No crash, no warning to the public, just an urgent radio call and silence on track. Ferrari called it an anomaly, but insiders are calling it something else. A thermal risk, an energy collapse, a potential design weakness under the brand new regulations. And here's the part nobody is saying out loud. If this is not just a worn-out test engine, if this is structural, Hamilton is in serious trouble before the season even begins. Because under the new hybrid rules, if your energy system fails, you are not slow. You do not finish. And what happened in Bahrain may have exposed a fatal weakness hiding inside the SF26. In this video, we are breaking down exactly what stopped the car, what Ferrari is not fully admitting, and why rival teams are already watching closely. Stay with me, because the final detail changes everything. And if you care about what really decides championships, subscribe now. The third day in Bahrain was not supposed to create headlines. It was supposed to confirm dominance. By that point, Ferrari had already completed hundreds of laps across the test. Solid mileage, clean runs, no dramatic failures. The plan was simple. Simulate race conditions. Push the car in heavy fuel trim. Stress the systems gradually. Hamilton went out on the harder compound. Fuel load high. Engine maps stable. Energy deployment controlled. This was not a glory run. This was the kind of session teams use to understand whether a car can survive a full Grand Prix distance. Lap after lap, the SF26 looked composed. The rear stayed planted out of slow corners. The traction was aggressive, almost violent. And the GPS traces showed something fascinating. Out of turn 1, out of turn 10, Ferrari was launching harder than anyone else. For the first phase of acceleration, it was the reference. That matters, because initial traction defines overtaking under the new regulations. And Ferrari looked extremely confident there. But here's where the first crack appeared. Halfway down the straight, the advantage faded. The electrical deployment curve dropped earlier than Red Bull's, earlier than McLaren's. The car was still quick, but the surge was inconsistent. Hamilton began adjusting his throttle traces, lifting slightly before braking zones, managing state of charge more carefully. That is not something you want to see during a controlled simulation. And this is important. He had already completed dozens of laps. The car did not explode. It did not misfire violently. Instead, the telemetry started showing combustion parameters outside the expected window. Not catastrophic, but abnormal. And when you are running a power unit that has already endured extreme mileage from Barcelona, you do not gamble. You stop. Immediately. Ferrari saw the data before the public saw the smoke. They saw temperature deltas climbing. They saw pressure variations. They saw something trending in the wrong direction. So they made the call. Box, box, box. But the car slowed before reaching safety. And that visual, a red Ferrari stopped during Hamilton's first official test cycle. That image travels fast. Now pause for a second, because this is not just about one shutdown. This is about what the shutdown implies. Ferrari chose to run the same power unit from a shakedown. They intentionally pushed it near the edge of its expected lifespan, roughly 3,000 kilometers. That is not accidental. That is a stress test. They wanted to know where it breaks. They needed to know before round 1. But here's the uncomfortable layer underneath. If the hybrid system is forcing the combustion engine to compensate too aggressively, then even a fresh unit could face similar stress in extreme conditions. And that possibility is what has the paddock whispering. Was this simply a tired engine reaching its limit? Or was it the first real sign that the energy management architecture is not yet fully stable? Because under the 2026 rules, energy deployment is not optional. It is central. If your battery drains too early, your engine overheats. If your engine overheats, you lose reliability. And if you lose reliability, you lose championships. That is the real tension inside Ferrari right now. Not panic, not public drama, but calculation. They now have to decide whether the failure was controlled or revealing. And that decision will shape how aggressive they dare to be in the opening race. And what they choose next might tell us whether the SF26 is a title contender or a machine still learning how to survive. Now let's go even deeper, because the real story is not the shutdown, is the pattern behind it. Energy clipping is not a random glitch. It is a symptom. Under the new regulations, the hybrid system delivers nearly half of the total power. That means battery deployment is no longer just for overtaking. It is constant, relentless, and if the recovery rate does not match the consumption rate, you create imbalance. Ferrari's data suggests that the battery depletes earlier than ideal on long straights. When that happens, the combustion engine must carry full load alone. No electrical assistance, maximum thermal stress, and Bahrain is brutal for that. Long straights, heavy braking zones, high ambient temperature. It is the perfect circuit to expose weaknesses in energy management. And here is the detail most people overlooked. Hamilton was not pushing for a qualifying lap. He was in race simulation mode, which means this clipping appeared under sustained load, not under a one-lap attack. That changes the conversation completely, because qualifying speed can hide fragility. Race distance cannot, and Ferrari reacted immediately. They introduced a revised engine cover with additional cooling outlets. More ventilation, more airflow extraction, but increased drag. That costs lap time, roughly 2/10. Teams do not sacrifice efficiency unless they must. Cooling upgrades mid-test signal concern, not experimentation. And yet, Ferrari's official message was calm. Precautionary stop. High mileage unit. No structural alarm. But the paddock does not look only at press releases. It looks at behavior. And Ferrari's behavior suggests they are walking a fine line. On one side, extraordinary traction. On the other, thermal sensitivity. The SF26 explodes out of corners. The electric torque arrives earlier than rivals. That gives them an advantage on restarts, on corner exits, on defending position. But deploying energy aggressively also means draining the battery faster. And if regeneration under braking is not perfectly optimized, the deficit compounds. Lap after lap. That could explain why Hamilton needed to lift and coast more than expected. Charging earlier, managing state of charge manually. And when a driver starts compensating for the car's energy system, that's a signal. Not of disaster, but of imbalance. Now add another layer. Leclerc appears more comfortable with this aggressive deployment. He uses the initial torque to rotate the car. He thrives on that snap of power. Hamilton prefers linear buildup, predictability, so the clipping feels more disruptive to him. Same car, different perception, but perception matters, because confidence defines performance. And here's where things become even more strategic. If Ferrari has the fastest car over one lap, rivals will react. There are already whispers of technical scrutiny, questions about materials inside the combustion chamber, questions about active aerodynamic interpretation. If Ferrari is on the edge of legality or innovation, political pressure could intensify. And when you combine regulatory attention with reliability uncertainty, you create instability before the first race even starts. So now we arrive at the real tension. Ferrari might have built a machine capable of pole positions, capable of dominating corner exit, capable of defending aggressively. But championships are not won on Saturday. They are won on Sunday. And Sunday demands durability, consistency, thermal control, energy discipline. The stoppage in Bahrain was not dramatic. There were no flames, no explosion. But sometimes the quiet failures are the most revealing, because they expose the limits before the spotlight of race day. And Ferrari now faces a decision. Push the aggressive energy philosophy and trust that the failure was simply an exhausted engine. Or dial back deployment, sacrifice some of that explosive traction, and prioritize stability. That choice will define how Hamilton starts this new chapter. And if they choose wrong, the SF26 will not just lose speed, it will lose finishes. And in this era of Formula One, a single DNF is not a setback, is a championship wound. And we are only at the beginning.